Morning walk, because she'd planned to stop at the library after. Marissa's vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to focus to catalogue. Everything she could see, the textbooks, were definitely from Lakeland High. She recognized the AP Biology text, the same edition Adrian used. The whiteboard was covered in notes about cellular respiration, the handwriting unmistakably Mr. Chandler's same precise script she'd seen on Adrian's returned assignments. The room looked lived in. There was a small refrigerator in one corner, a microwave on top of it, a narrow bed against the stone wall, and those were definitely old stone walls, suggesting this had once been a root cellar, a door that must lead to a bathroom based on the PVC pipe she could see running along the ceiling. Movement in her peripheral vision made her freeze. Mr. Chandler descended what must be stairs outside her field of view, carrying a tray. She could see sandwiches, a glass of milk, and apple cut into slices the way Adrian always liked them. He moved out of view toward the area under the stairs, where she couldn't see, but she could hear his voice, muffled through the glass, but still audible. I brought lunch, turkey and Swiss, your favorite. There was a response. A young female voice, too quiet to make out the words. Your mother still hasn't figured it out, Mr. Chandler, continued his voice, taking on that same confidential tone she'd heard at her kitchen table. But we need to be more careful now that they've found the dog. Another response, longer. This time the tone wasn't panicked or pleading. It sounded resigned, weary, like someone having a conversation they'd had many times before. I know you miss him, Mr. Chandler said, but it was necessary. We couldn't have him leading them here too soon. You understand that, don't you? Everything I do is to protect you, to protect what we're building together. The female voice again, and this time Marissa caught a few words carried on the draft from the ventilation. Window, Mum, won't the assignments your mother will understand eventually, Mr. Chandler replied. When you graduate with perfect scores, when you get into medical school, when you become everything you're capable of becoming, she see that I was right. That traditional school was holding you back. Our way is better. Marissa pressed her hand over her mouth to stifle a sob. Adrian, her baby girl, was down there alive, but imprisoned in this man's delusion based on the stone walls and the narrow window. It had to be a converted root cellar, probably dating back to the house's original construction. A perfect prison, soundproof, windowless, except for that small ventilation gap invisible from the road. She had to call for help now. This was evidence, real evidence. Her daughter was alive. Marissa's hand shook violently as she pulled out her phone. Still crouched beneath the basement window, she backed away, slowly trying to put distance between herself and the house while maintaining sight of the back door. The HVAC unit humming softly near the corner of the house provided some cover. She pressed herself against its metal surface and dialed 911 911. What's your emergency? The dispatcher's calm voice seemed surreal against the pounding of Marissa's heart. This is Marissa Ewing, she whispered urgently. My daughter Adrian has been missing for a year. I'm at 4847 Rimrock Road and I can see her. She's being held in the basement by her teacher, Tobias Chandler. Ma'am, I need you to speak up. Did you say you can see your missing daughter? The dispatcher, her name tag would later show. Bethany Cole was already typing, alerting units. Yes, she's in the basement. I saw her backpack. Heard him talking to her. It's 4847 Rimrock. Marissa shifted her weight to spell out the street name more clearly, and her foot came down on something that cracked like a gunshot. In the quiet afternoon, she looked down in horror at the shattered, decorative solar light, its plastic housing split and glass scattered on the ground. The back door slammed open with such force it bounced off the wall. Mr. Chandler stood there, his face twisted with rage, his normally composed features distorted. I know you're there, he shouted, his eyes scanning the yard. Marissa, you followed me. You couldn't just trust me to search for her, could you? Marissa ran phone, still pressed to her ear. She sprinted toward the Triine hearing. The dispatcher's urgent voice asking for her. Location Rimrock Road, 4847. Send help now. He's chasing her foot caught on a route, and she went down hard, the phone flying from her hand. She scrambled to grab it, but Mr. Chandler was already there, snatching it up with a wordless sound of fury. He hurled it against the brick siding of the house. The phone exploded into pieces you don't understand. He shouted as Marissa regained her feet and ran, "You never understood what Adrienne really needs. The pressure you put on her, the mediocre education at that school, I'm protecting her. From a world that doesn't appreciate gifted students like her." Marissa crashed through the underbrush branches, tearing at her clothes and skin. She could hear him behind her, his new hiking boots crushing through the forest debris her car she had to reach her car. She was dying inside. His voice was getting closer, drowning in busy work and standardized tests, when she could be truly learning. I gave her what you couldn't. Individual attention, real education, a chance to reach her full potential. The abandoned barn came into view, and Marissa put on a burst of speed, her legs burning. She could see her Camry just 50 feet away, 40, 30. She yanked the door open and threw herself inside, slamming the locks. Just as Mr. Chandler reached the vehicle, his fists pounded on the window. She wants to be there. She's thriving. You'll destroy everything we've built. Marissa started the engine and threw it in reverse, gravel spraying as she backed away from him. In her rearview mirror, she saw him running to his Honda. She spun the wheel tires, squealing as she headed for the main road. Her mind raced as fast as her car. The dispatcher had gotten the address. She'd said it twice, spelled Rimrock. That had to be enough. They would send units, they had to. She careened onto Rimrock Road, taking the curves too fast. In her mirrors, she could see the silver Honda pursuing Mr. Chandler, driving with the same terrifying intensity he'd shown in the yard at the intersection with Cedar Lane. She took a hard right tires, screaming. He followed closer now. A residential neighborhood opened up before her, and she wove through it, running stop signs, praying no children were playing in the streets. Left on Maple, right on 3rd, another, left onto Pine. But he knew these roads too stayed with her. Through every turn, Highway 95 appeared ahead, and she merged into traffic without looking, horns blaring around her. The Honda followed, cutting off a pickup truck to stay on her tail. But the heavier traffic worked in her favor. She could weave between cars while he got stuck behind a slow-moving RV. By the time she reached the Walmart intersection, she'd lost sight of him. She pulled into the parking lot and drove to the far corner, parking between two large trucks, where her car wouldn't be easily visible from the road. Her whole body was shaking, adrenaline making her feel sick. She had no phone, no way to know if help was coming. All she could do was wait and pray that Bethany Cole had understood enough to send help. 20 minutes later, Officer James Wright of the Coutini County Sheriff's Department was the first to spot the silver Honda Accord returning to 4847 Rimrock Road. 2 other units were already in position, having arrived minutes earlier to find the property seemingly empty. They'd been about to force entry when the Honda appeared. Mr. Chandler saw the police cars too late. He tried to reverse, but Officer Wright's unit blocked him in. Within seconds, officers had him out of the car and in handcuffs. His composed teacher persona finally completely shattered. "You don't understand," he screamed as they read him his rights. "She needs me, her education, her future. I'm the only one who truly understands her potential." The officers ignored his ravings. As they searched the property, the main floor revealed nothing unusual, but in the basement, Deputy Sarah Martinez noticed something odd about the water heater closet. The heater itself was pushed strangely forward, and behind it got a door here. She called out. It was cleverly concealed, painted to match the wall with a sophisticated lock mechanism. Mr. Chandler's keys opened it, revealing a narrow hallway that led to another door. This one steel with a deadbolt that locked from the outside. Officer Wright opened it carefully, announcing himself. "Adrian, this is the police. We're here to help you." The room beyond was exactly as Marissa had described, a converted root cellar turned into a bizarre classroom prison, and there, sitting at the desk with a pencil in her hand, was Adrian Ewing. She looked up at the officers with hollow eyes, her face pale from a year without sunlight. She was thin but not emaciated, dressed in clean clothes that looked too big for her frame in her hands. She clutched a notebook filled with line after line of neat handwriting. "I need to finish this assignment," she said, her voice rusty from disuse. "Mr. C says I can't get into college if I don't maintain my perfect GPA. I have a test tomorrow on cellular mitosis." "Adrian, honey, you're safe now, officer," Wright said gently, moving slowly into the room. "Your mum sent us. You're going home." She looked confused, almost frightened. "But I have homework, 3 chapters to read, 2 lab reports to write. Mr. C says if I fall behind, I'll never catch up. The other students are already so far ahead." Deputy Martinez had to blink back tears as she watched the 17-year-old girl clutch her notebook like a lifeline, months of completed assignments visible in its pages. The desperate work of a child trying to earn her freedom through perfect grades, not understanding that no amount of A's would ever be enough for the man who'd stolen her life. "Will make sure your work is safe," Officer Wright promised, gently coaxing the notebook from her hands. "But right now, we need to get you to your mum. She's been looking for you for so long." The fluorescent lights of Senai Health Hospital seemed too bright after the dimness of the root cellar. Adrienne sat on the examination bed, her thin frame drowning in a hospital gown, while nurses drew blood and checked her vitals. She kept asking about her assignments, whether someone had brought her textbooks if she could have. Just one pencil and paper to work on her calculus problems in a conference room 3 floors down. Detective Marcus Holbrook sat across from Tobias Chandler. The science teacher's composed mask had finally completely crumbled. His hands were cuffed to the table, his shirt disheveled, his carefully styled hair now hanging limp across his forehead. "I want to explain," Chandler said, his voice taking on an almost pleading quality. "People won't understand, but I need someone to know the truth, Detective." Holbrook activated his recorder. "Go ahead, Mr. Chandler. Tell me everything." "I noticed Adrian the first day she walked into my freshman biology class 3 years ago," Chandler began, his eyes distant with memory. "She wasn't like the other students. She had this hunger for approval, for perfection. Most kids her age are lazy, distracted, but Adrian, she hung on every word, took meticulous notes, always stayed after class with questions." "When did your relationship become inappropriate?" Holbrook asked, keeping his voice neutral despite his disgust. "I prefer to think of it as when I recognized her true potential." Chandler corrected. Her parents had just divorced. She was struggling with feelings of abandonment, of not being good enough. Her grades were slipping. B's in most subjects. She came to me almost in tears, one day worried about her GPA. He leaned forward, as if the detective might understand. "I saw an opportunity to help her. I told her about weighted grades, how, with special attention and additional assignments, I could ensure she got the A she needed. She was so grateful, so eager to prove herself worthy of that extra help. You used her grades as leverage." Holbrook stated flatly, "I provided incentive." Chandler insisted the lunch period session started innocently enough. She'd come to the science prep room and we'd review material, but she was so responsive to praise, so desperate for validation. When I told her she was special, different from the others, she bloomed like a flower in sunlight. The detective's jaw tightened. "When did Joe first assault her?" Chandler's face darkened. "It wasn't assault, it was connection during our anatomy unit. I was explaining muscle groups, and I placed my hand on her shoulder to demonstrate she didn't pull away. If anything, she leaned into the touch. After that, the boundaries became more fluid, a hand on her back while looking over her work, sitting closer than necessary, embracing her when she achieved perfect scores, and the kidnapping that was never the plan, Chandler said, agitation creeping into his voice. But in late June, during one of our sessions, Adrian mentioned her mother was considering a job in Spokane. They would move before her senior year. I couldn't let that happen. She was so close to perfection, to achieving everything we'd worked for. A move would destroy her progress, expose her to inferior teachers who wouldn't understand her needs. He described his preparations with disturbing pride. 3 months of work on his grandmother's root cellar soundproofing the walls, installing a ventilation system that would keep air flowing without allowing sound to escape, a chemical toilet discreet enough to avoid suspicion when purchased, a mini fridge and microwave for basic needs, educational materials to continue her studies. I told the neighbors I was renovating to rent the basement as a studio apartment, he continued. Never questioned it. Why would they? I was a respected teacher improving a family property. The day she disappeared, Holbrook prompted. I knew her routine. Saturday morning walks with the dog on the Centennial Trail, always the same route, same time. I intercepted her near the bridge where the trail is isolated. The chloroform was from old chemistry supplies the school was supposed to have destroyed. Years ago, she didn't suffer when she woke up. She was safe in her new classroom, and the dog. A necessary misdirection. I'd scouted that location in the forest weeks before, remote enough that he wouldn't be found immediately, but eventually someone would discover him. It would focus the search far from the house. I went back periodically to feed him, keep him alive. A dead dog would end the search. A living dog would extend it, keep hope alive while directing resources away from the truth. 2 floors up, forensic interviewer Dr. Patricia Vance sat with Adrian in a quiet room designed to feel less clinical than the rest of the hospital. Marissa watched through one-way glass, tears streaming down her face as she listened to her daughter's flat, emotionless recitation. Mr. C explained everything that first day. Adrian said, her eyes focused on her hands. He said Mum was relieved I was gone, that now she could date without worrying about setting a bad example, could save money instead of paying for college. He showed me a news article on his phone about runaways, said that's how I'd been classified, not missing, just another teenage runaway. How did that make you feel? Dr. Vance asked, gently, hurt at first, but then grateful. Mr. C said he was the only one who truly cared about my education, my future. He risked everything to give me individual attention to prepare me for college without the distractions and inferior teaching at regular school. She described her daily routine with disturbing, normally wake at 600 a.m. Breakfast usually cereal or toast that he'd bring down, mathematics from 7 to 9, science until lunch, afternoon for history, and English evening for test prep and college essays. He'd grade everything, providing detailed feedback, praise for perfection, disappointment for anything less. He gave me rewards for good performance. Adrian continued, the pink bracelet when I maintained straight A's for a month, new books when I exceeded expectations, extra food variety for perfect test scores, screen time on his laptop for exceptional essays, always supervised, of course. Did you ever try to leave? Dr. Vance asked. Adrian looked confused by the question. Where would I go? I was a runaway. Mum didn't want me back. I'd missed so much school I'd never catch up. Mr. C was preparing me for success out there. She gestured vaguely. I'd just be another failure. Dr. Helena Morrison, the trauma specialist, explained to Marissa that Adrian had developed severe Stockholm Syndrome, a year of complete isolation with only her captor for human Contact combined with his psychological manipulation has fundamentally altered her perception of reality. She genuinely believes he was protecting her, that the outside world would reject her. When they finally allowed Marissa into the room, Adrienne looked at her with eyes that seemed both young and impossibly old. "Mum." Her voice was uncertain, as if she wasn't sure this was real. "Oh, baby." Marissa sobbed, pulling her daughter into her arms. "I never stopped looking, not for one day. I love you so much." Adrienne was stiff in her embrace at first, then slowly, like ice melting, she began to soften. "He said you were glad." She whispered that. "I was too much trouble, too expensive." "Never," Marissa said fiercely. "You are my whole world. Everything I did was to find you, to bring you home." Detective Holbrook entered quietly, nodding to Dr. Vance. "We found everything," he said softly. "The pink bracelet, the completed assignments, the college essays." She wrote about why she was taking a gap year for independent study. The manipulation was comprehensive. Adrienne pulled back from her mother, slightly anxiety creeping into her features. "My assignments. Did you save them all that work? I need them for my transcripts." Her voice grew smaller, more frightened. "Am I still going to get into college, even though I missed a year of real school?" Mr. C said the homeschool curriculum was better, but what if colleges don't accept it? What if I ruined everything? Marissa held her daughter tighter, feeling the fragile bones beneath her hands, understanding that the physical rescue was only the beginning. The girl in her arms believed her worth was measured in perfect grades, that love was conditional on academic achievement, that a year of captivity was preferable to the risk of educational mediocrity. Healing from that would take far longer than healing from the physical confinement. "We'll figure it out together," Marissa whispered, stroking Adrienne's lank hair. "Whatever you need, however long it takes, you're safe now. That's all that matters." But even as she said it, she could feel her daughter's tension, the fear that safety might not be enough if it came. Without the perfect GPA that had become her entire identity in that basement prison,